President Matamela Ramaphosa has delivered the opening address at the Conference on the Constitution today. Delegates at this three-day gathering are reflecting on the country's charter. It's being hosted by the Justice Minister, Ronald Lamula, in Midrand in Gauteng. My colleague, senior reporter Silindelo Masikane, is keeping an eye on the event. She's joining us now live. Good afternoon, Silindelo. I understand you have Professor Thuli Madonsela with you. Earlier today, she was taking part in one of the panel discussions.
Certainly so. I don't think we can underplay the significance of this particular conference. It's the first of its kind, where we're seeing the legal fraternity, academia, we're seeing government officials and young people, business, civil society coming together to actually just dissect how far we've come in terms of what the Constitution was meant to do. So has it actually done what it's meant to do, or is it still lacking? So for more on this, I am joined, like you say, by Professor Thuli Madonsela, and we know, of course, she used to head one of our Chapter 9 institutions, but now she is the Law Trustee of Social Justice at the Stellenbosch University. Thank you so much for your time, Prof. Maybe let me pose that question to you. Has the Constitution actually done what it's supposed to do 25 years later?
Thank you. I think we have done a lot through the Constitution, because the first point that I made was that constitutions are not magic words. It's humans that implement constitutions. And if there's a failure of using a transformative constitution, it may be two places: the wording of the Constitution or the execution of the contents of the Constitution. And I think where we have exercise fidelity to both the letter and the spirit of the Constitution, we've done well. A lot of gender transformation laws that I mentioned, maintenance, GBV, marriage, and also the laws in employment equity and labor law transformation, we did well. But there's areas where we didn't pay attention to constitutional fidelity, particularly understanding that the Constitution is a blueprint for transforming the society we inherited into the society we chose to become. So where we've dropped the ball, then people call the Constitution a Potemkin Constitution. But I said it's not the Constitution. It's when we have failed to use the Constitution transformatively.
In essence, implementation, right? So it comes down to those who are tasked with making this an actual living document.
Absolutely. There has been some people here in this conference and in society who say because people's lives have not improved, we have gross inequalities, unemployment, poverty, people not being able to access hospitals, schools being still unbalanced as they were under apartheid, gender-based violence. Where they are right is that those problems exist and some of them have become worse. Where I think they're wrong is the assumption that if a doctor gives you a script to go and collect your medicine and use it as directed, you collect the script, you don't buy all of the medicine, you don't use the medicines as prescribed, and then you don't get better, you even get even more sick. And then you go back and you say, the doctor gave you a wrong script. We've got to look at the provisions of the Constitution, we have to look at the execution and the outcomes. I gave an example of land. It was fascinating because I've been researching land to say this whole country has been about land. You know, the fights between white people and black people started with land, and they continue to be about land. But the earliest recorded fight was when black people were given 8.5%, 1930. There was a lamentation by Sol Plaatje a year later. The second time, it's 1943, when the first Bill of Rights was written by the ANC with the African demands. Still, land was at the core of it. And then we have the Freedom Charter. And And then we have the interim constitution that is 30 years. It still puts land at the center. And this constitution also says government has a duty to transform land access, to ensure equitable access to land. That is section 25 too. But you know how much do Africans own today of land? 4.5%. Not because of the constitution, because of bad policy choices since 1999.
And I think, of course, expectations out of this conference is how then to better hold those who are meant to implement the Constitution accountable.
Absolutely, and I love the vibrance of this room, the young people, because I think as soon as there's constitutional literacy, everyone will understand that using this very constitution, there's a lot you can do to transform. For example, we have ARVs today, not because parliamentarians sat down and decided everyone must get ARVs. It's because somebody who understood their rights, in this case the TAC, took the government to the Constitutional Court. We now have impound laws, at least outlawed in KwaZulu-Natal, because in the Zondi matter, somebody took government to court to say these laws have deprived people of their livestock for years. They were part of the implementation of apartheid or even colonialism. I mean, you talk about the PE case, which was about so-called illegal squatting. That was also another way of oppressing people and depriving them of the power to be producers of wealth. Because I think the biggest challenge we have is people ask for jobs. And that's today's youth asks for jobs. That's not what Pixley Kaseme, Charlotte Maklege, and all of the old people who were young at the time they were asking. They were asking to have an opportunity to enjoy every opportunity, every right. Hence the 1943 Bill of Rights.
Thank you so much. I wish we could chat further, but we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time, Professor. That is Professor Thuli Madonsela, one of the panelists at this particular conference. We're here for the next two more days, Bradan, and we are expecting that there are going to be some actionable implementations afterwards to ensure that the Constitution becomes that living document it was always envisioned to be.
Thank you very much, Silindelo. I'm going to do a quiz for you when you come back from that conference to see how much you know now of the Constitution about the